This rare V8 economy car destroyed everyone. The Motion Vega. If you were to round up a bunch of gearheads and ask them about the most jaw-dropping sleeper hits of the 70s, you get a whole garage full of tales. Some about beastly muscle cars and others about under-the-radar road warriors. But among these stories, one ride stands tall as the undisputed champ of shaking up the street scene. It wasn't just any whip, it was the fabled Motion Vega, a sleeper that turned the concept of an economy car on its head and smoked the competition without breaking a sweat. Now let's peel back the curtain on the wild world of Baldwin Motion, where the need for speed ruled and the cars were anything but run-of-the-mill. Born out of a killer combo between Baldwin Chevrolet and Motion Performance, two giants chilling in Baldwin, New York, this partnership was the stuff of legends during the heyday of muscle cars in the late 60s and early 70s. Here's the deal. Baldwin Chevrolet wasn't just handing over keys to new Chevys, they were fueling a high-octane dream. They'd ship these rides over to Motion Performance, who'd then crank things up to 11. We're talking serious engine swaps and bespoke parts that made car buffs drool. These weren't your average modifications, they were wild transformations that turned stock cars into beasts ready to conquer the asphalt jungle. Famous for their Phase 3 beasts, Baldwin Motion wasn't playing around. Camaros, Novas, Corvettes, you name it, they supercharged it. And these weren't just fast cars, they were legends, guaranteed to blast through a quarter mile in the 11-second zone straight off the lot. But hang on, we're not focusing on those legends today. Today it's all about Motion's ultimate swan song, their big block Vega. This wasn't just any car. The first-generation pre-facelift Vega built by Chevrolet from 1970 to 1973 was quite the looker, mirroring a mini 1970 Camaro, albeit a tad bit more subdued. Designed as an economy car for the masses, it packed various inline four-cylinder engines, which frankly weren't all that fast due to their modest four-cylinder setups. However, the Vega's real ace was its front-engine rear-wheel drive layout and a lightweight body tipping the scales at just 2,200 pounds, making it an ideal candidate for insane speed modifications if you dared to swap in a beefier engine. Real gearheads caught on to this, gutting these compact Vegas, shoehorning in roaring V8s and achieving mind-blowing quarter-mile sprints that could dip into the 9-second territory with the right rig. But here's another kicker. Despite their souped-up capabilities, these V8-powered Vegas still rolled under the radar as compact cars, which meant owners enjoyed much cheaper insurance rates compared to other muscle beasts of the era. The craze didn't stop with just a few garage tinkerers. Companies started churning out V8 swap kits, turning every driveway into a potential muscle car workshop. Chevrolet themselves threw their hat in the ring with a Skunkworks project, an all-aluminum small-block V8 Vega prototype. This beast was designed to dodge the pitfalls of a heavy iron block that could turn the car into an unwieldy beast. Instead, they opted for a lighter aluminum block that barely messed with the handling. Equipped with a 302 cubic inch engine and a stock turbo 350 transmission, this configuration alone was good for high 13-second blasts down the strip. Imagine coupling that with a 4-speed and a finely tuned posy rear end. Now you're in for a ride that could push 300 horsepower or more. And then there's the Motion Vega. When the V8 Vega mania was at its peak, Motion Performance wasn't just watching from the sidelines. They jumped in with their own line of turnkey V8 Vegas, delivered ready to wreak havoc right out of the box. And while they also offered DIY swap kits, the real deal was their fully assembled beasts, ready to dominate the streets and strips alike. Under the hood. Right off the bat, the entry-level Motion V8 swapped Vegas carried a price tag starting at $4,000. This wasn't just pocket change, especially when you consider that a brand new Z28 Camaro was stickered around $3,500 at that time. But here's the kicker. Motion wasn't bound by the same corporate handcuffs as bigger companies, so they went wild. The possibilities were endless, and crazy was just part of the recipe when speccing out a V8 Vega. Diving into the old mags and period ads, here's the lowdown. Your $4,000 slapped down on the counter got you the base model V8 Vega, likely sporting a sturdy 350 small block. Not exactly headline news, but still snappy. Now, if you were willing to bump up your spend to $5,000, you were looking at the Motion Phase 3 V8 Vega. This bad boy came standard with the 370 horsepower LT1 small block Chevy, a beast by 1971 standards, and a powerhouse among muscle motors. And it didn't stop there. The Motion Vegas could also be decked out with a slew of high-octane mods like a 4-speed M22 Rock Crusher transmission, a robust 12-bolt Posey rear end, and all sorts of suspension tweaks to ensure you're getting the most out of every green light showdown. And believe it, things could get even more insane from there. Jumping right into the fray, the Phase 3 was no slouch with its standard 370 horsepower 350, but for those with deeper pockets and a thirst for the ultimate in muscle, things got seriously heavy duty. Imagine shelling out, say, maybe $6 or $7 grand, which was no small change back in the day. That kind of cash could snag you a monstrous 427 or 454 cubic inch big block Chevy, the kind of powerhouse that redefines insanity. Shoehorning a big block into the Vegas snug confines? That meant serious surgery. Cutting here, custom mounts there, and side exiting exhaust that just screamed muscle. These big block Motion Vegas weren't just fast, they were ludicrously fast, tearing through quarter miles like tissue paper. Sure, they turned like a boat with all that weight up front, but who cares when you're blowing doors off in straightaways? And just when you think you've heard it all, there's more. Yeah, really. If the idea of a big block Vega doesn't rev your engine, how about a turbocharged or supercharged 350 small block instead? Tucked in the pages of some old-school magazine and dug up from a forum, these options show that when it came to customizing your Motion Vega, the sky was the limit. You could truly tailor these beasts to your own brand of crazy. Plus, these Motion Vegas weren't just about muscle, they sported those iconic motion stripes that you'd recognize from a mile away, slapped on nearly all their rides. Talking mods, think bigger Krager wheels, a mean rear deck lid spoiler, some slick side pipes, and even a L88 style hood to really crank up that intimidation factor. And if you think a regular Vega's too snug, guess what? There was a motion wagon too. For instance, you could be cruising, minding your own business, and a Vega wagon blows past a Hemi Charger. Bet that left a few folks pretty red-faced back in the day. Rumor has it these top-tier Motion Vegas could fetch between $6,000 and $7,000 fresh off the lot. Serious dough for a car that was more or less a rocket on wheels without much else unless you were hitting the drag strip. Sales and impact. Diving into the numbers game, the production stats on these Motion Vegas are a bit like ghost stories, kind of hard to pin down. But the word on the street is that maybe just 4 of the 454-powered monsters were made before the EPA rolled up on Joel Rosen, the mastermind behind Motion. They weren't exactly fans of his work, telling him he was playing fast and loose with their regulations, and pretty much pulled the plug on his operation. Back in the day, Joel was the go-to guy for verifying whether your ride was a genuine motion machine, and he didn't do it for peanuts either. But with Joel's passing in 2023, some of that deep motion lore might be lost to the sands of time. We're talking about a limited batch of these turnkey terrors, and word has it, a few even found their way overseas. And let's face it, these cars weren't just built, they were built to be thrashed on the racetrack. Odds are plenty of them ended up wrecked or chopped up. Somewhere out there, rusting in peace, are likely a couple of these legendary Motion Vegas that the world has forgotten. And just to put things in perspective, these Motion Vegas are like the crown jewels of dealer-modified speed demons, sitting right there on the pedestal next to the fabled AMC Gremlin 401XR. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of our documentary series. If this revved your engine, do us a solid, hit that like button. Share this video with your fellow car buffs.